Welcome to Birds in the Sky, the podcast where we explore how making art and music can be powerful tools for boosting mental health and well-being. Whether you're an artist, a musician, or simply someone looking for new ways to nurture your mind, we'll dive into creative practices, share inspiring stories, and uncover how the act of creating can lead to healing, self-discovery, and growth. Tune in and let your creativity carry you forward. I'm your host, Matthew Crane. Let's fly. Welcome to another episode of Birds in the Sky. I'm your host, Matthew Crane. Today we have Erica Duncan. She is a Navy veteran, and we met in the Odyssey Project making photography as a way to kind of talk about our experiences as veterans coming home. So, Erica, thanks for coming by the show.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I got that right. You served in the Navy, right? Okay, great. What did you do in the Navy, and what were your dates of service?
I was in from November 11th, 2003 to November 11th, 2007 were my active, and then I had the reserves.
Right. And that's Veterans Day.
Yeah.
So you joined and got out on Veterans Day.
Well, no, technically I joined in the summer, and I
Okay.
couldn't leave. I couldn't leave for boot camp until November.
Check.
But yeah, it's funny that it's November 11th.
Nice. What'd you do in the Navy?
So I started out as a damage controlman. So the fighting fires and stuff.
Yes, firefighter in the U.S. Navy.
Yeah, and then I did 2 years as an MA, so Master at Arms, so military police.
Right on. Very cool. Did you see any boat time?
Yes, a lot.
A lot of boat time.
Yeah, so the last 2.5 years I was on the George Washington, so I was on a carrier, and we went to like the Caribbean and stuff like that.
Ooh, the Caribbean. I did a little detachment on the George Washington. It was only
Oh,
like
so
a 2-week workup or something like that.
yeah, it's not bad.
How did you like carrier life? Because I was in an H-60 squadron, so we lived on a base, North Island, but we only had to deploy during either a workup or a full deployment attached to the ship. But then we would fly inland and
Yeah,
work from wherever country we were at that time. So only like boat time in transit, like a taxi.
yeah, and that's funny because that's how the Marines use us too. Yeah, um, I liked it. I also really love the water. The only thing I don't like is waking up in the middle of the night for man overboard.
Yeah, that's a huge bummer. So if you're listening and you don't know what that's about, so if you're out in the Navy, there's a man overboard drill and or real event where they call man overboard. It doesn't matter what time of day, and you could be in the middle of sleep. Everybody has to get up and muster or meet at a designated point so you can get a literal head count, like you're counting children, but there's 5,000 or so people on board. So if one person's missing, you all have to stay awake and stay at your muster
Until
spot until everybody's accounted for. And you're happy to do it when somebody has gone over, which is very, very minimally the case. It's almost never the case, but it's almost always just a drill, and that's the worst.
we called him the chem light bandit, and he would just randomly off the flight deck crack one and throw it in the dark. So they would think it would be 3 a.m, and they'd be like, man overboard. Or like right after watch.
Yeah,
You're in the shower, you're like getting ready for bed in the shower, and they're like, man overboard. And you're like, okay.
yeah, you could be in the shower. You got to hurry up and get dressed, dried off, and get to where you're going. You're still soapy, and you're just standing there like waiting until they count everybody.
Yeah.
And yeah, we had a couple situations like that, but they usually catch that person and get them off the boat like immediately, or get them in the brig or something, just because that's a lot.
Him.
They didn't catch him. I mean, that's a lot of money and just like fuel costs for the search and rescue helicopter, and
Yeah.
for no reason. But anyway, yeah, that's I could talk Navy stories all day because
Yeah, right.
World's finest Navy. I haven't had a lot of other sailors on, so thanks for coming on the show. But
No problem.
what made you join the Navy?
So I was dating someone, and their dad was high-ranking Army, And he was like, not the Marines because you're not insane. I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
He's like, not the Air Force. He's like, Army might be too hard for you, but you like the water, so go with Navy. And I'm like, all right. And I joined in high school.
Nice. Did you do the delayed entry program? Is that why you didn't
I
leave
did.
until November? Okay.
Yeah.
I did that as well. It was pretty cool. So how does was it for service to serve, or was it more like as a means to get to college?
So it was a little bit of everything. I have really bad wanderlust. I love seeing different places, and like different cultures. So I hoped that the Navy would like bring me to different places so that I could see the different things. Um, I did get to go to the Caribbean and Colombia and like Japan and stuff. Uh, but I would love to go back to some of those places.
Mhm.
The other was definitely college. I didn't know what I was going to go for at the time, but I knew that I was not going to be able to afford it, just like working at Papa John's.
Right. Yeah, that's kind of my story too. Wanderlust.
Yeah.
I chose the Navy because I was, you know, it was just it seemed really awesome. You just got to travel all the time and go to different cultures, and the
Yep.
Navy is it's kind of like a beacon for people with wanderlust.
Yeah, I can
And
see
since
why.
I've been out, I because I had that experience with the Navy taking me to different places, when I got out of the service, I was like, I'm still gonna keep doing that. So I still travel quite a bit. Do you find yourself traveling these days?
I try to travel as much as I can, but I can't be gone for long periods because of my son.
Mhm.
But if I had it my way, we would be living in like a camper van and like just going different places, going to different countries because he's got the bug too.
Mhm.
So he's already like picking places that he wants to go.
Right on. That's awesome. Yeah, you got to get your kids out into the world so they can see it. There's more than just your neighborhood, and there's more than just your school, you know?
Yeah, and he's smart. So like he's Googled all these countries that he wants to go to. So he's like, there's this town and they speak this language. I'm like, okay,
Yeah, put it on the list.
yeah. We have a whole book. Put it in the book.
Nice. So after you get out of the Navy, what was your transition story like coming back into civilian life? Because that's a big part of each
Mhm.
of our journey as vets, and we all kind of go through a different experience. So what was your experience?
So I got out and I moved here to go to school. So I was the older veteran in my college classes.
In Buffalo?
Yeah, well, Hamburg. I went to Hilbert.
Okay.
Um, it was not an easy transition because I was so used to the discipline and the structure that when I got out, I didn't have that anymore. So it threw off like my ADHD and like everything because I always had like a routine. It was hard for me to relate to other people that hadn't served because we have like a certain mindset and we tell jokes that other people might not find funny. But eventually, like, did find really good friends. You know, some of them have become family, but it did take a long time. And I definitely had to be in therapy because I didn't feel like I fit anymore. You know how, like, they have those toys when you're a kid that have the circle and the square and you got to put them in the hole? I
Yes.
always felt like I was the wrong shape.
Got it.
That's gotten better, though. So,
Is that a result of coming back from the military community, and when you go into a civilian community, especially like a college where I was also an older adult? I went to college when I was 36, I think. And it was, yeah, no, like you're just
yeah.
decades older. I, for, so I back to my question, was it because there was a lack of military community around you?
Actually, that was a big part. There were a bunch of veterans on campus, but we never really knew each other.
Okay.
So, my junior year, me and some other veterans started the vet center at Hilbert. So we started out with the Veterans Club. And then it morphed into they have an entire space for veterans now.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was really good getting to like being in the same room as like-minded people. And the more we got bigger, even professors were coming to the meetings.
Okay, professors that were vets or people that were just
Yep,
curious about the culture?
no, professors that were vets. There were a couple non-vets because they were curious,
Right.
and we welcomed them. We're not going to say no.
Right, right. It's just more about getting together with people who understand your jokes and however everything's an acronym, and you can use the 24-hour clock and you don't have to do math for people.
It's on my phone right now.
Yeah, it's a more efficient way to read and tell time.
I
There's no
still write my
riddles.
zeros with the line.
So do I. Otherwise, it's the letter O.
Yep, it's
So
oh
like, don't give me the letter O. Slash it, please. Weird things like that. But that's why we need each other, and that's why vets need to come together. So after you started that veterans club at Hilbert, did that help your transition?
yeah, it definitely helped. Um, I became friends with a lot of the professors through the club. We did a lot of good things. I felt more able to be open with people,
Uh-huh.
and that really helped because I had pretty much walled myself off.
Right. And why do you think you walled yourself off?
Uh,
Just not trusting
circumstance,
that.
yeah,
Not
circumstances
yeah,
that
okay.
happened while I was in made it so that I had trust problems, and I didn't
Okay.
really feel like, if I said something to somebody, they might either take it the wrong way or, think that I'm looking for attention or something.
Sure. Okay. And let's go into the creative side of things. And you're a wildly creative person. Was that something that's always been a part of your sort of your world, or did you find
Yeah.
art
So,
later?
so my grandma raised me. She was a hippie, uh, real big into music and art. So we were always traveling and going and seeing museums and shows. My uncle was a photographer, so like all the family photos. Who he was also army, so like I have military in the family, but like I've always been more on the creative side, but with you know honing those skills definitely helped me heal a lot of stuff.
Okay. So are you saying that like when you took it up as a serious kind of practice, that was almost a better way for you to start diving deep into your
Yes.
stuff? Okay.
Yeah, it's like they call it shadow work where you like look deeper into yourself. It was kind of like the start of that for me.
Interesting. Okay, so almost like a doorway into like your help
Yeah.
phase, right? And getting a
Yep.
deeper personalized help. Okay. And so how does like creativity or making art or photography, how does that get us to that place of being willing to heal?
I think it's because so many people like went before me in sharing their stories. It made it easier for me to open up to, quote unquote strangers about some of the deepest stuff that has bothered, or, caused issues in my life. With the photography, it was definitely easier to tell the story with the picture than it was just me saying it.
Right. I hear that a lot, especially from veterans and veteran photographers. That's a pretty common thread I'm hearing is that it's just far easier to show you an image that has that response rather than to let me give you a detailed explanation of why I feel scared or
Okay.
unsafe, right? Like that doesn't work, but look at this picture. It's messed up, right? Yeah, that's how I feel inside.
Yeah. Yeah.
It seems to be a little easier for veterans. And, thanks for sharing that because that's a really critical thing. And I think that's useful for anybody who's not a veteran because we all experience life. We all have to go through life. And it's not easy. It's not pretty for anybody.
Yeah.
And we do a lot of comparing, especially with social media. Everybody's life looks better than ours,
Yeah.
but it's not. It's not. We all feel the same crap. So, I encourage people to really give art a chance. Just give it a chance.
Yeah.
So the Odyssey Project, that was Brendan Bannon's project to get cameras in the hands of veterans. How did you hear about that? And what was your curiosity or your draw to it?
Um, it was actually in a therapy session, and I saw a pamphlet for it. And I'm like, you know what? I feel like this might be a good thing. She agreed. So she reached out and they accepted me. And we had a long talk beforehand that some of the stuff that we will be focusing on might trigger things. So there was like I'm worried that it might end badly, I will say that that first weekend that we all, we spend the weekend somewhere all together, we all got to know each other. And I felt like this, I fit. Like, this is it. Like, these people are my people.
Mhm.
So, I thank Brendan all the time, for letting me have an outlet like this. Because
And
before I didn't.
yeah. So what did you learn about yourself through the lens of a camera or rediscover?
Who I was, I lost that person for a very long time. And doing the photography that I do, it has helped me embrace, things that have happened to me and work on them in a coherent way instead of, just going to therapy, because that's therapy is great. I'm not going to knock therapy, but I think in my case I needed that other something so that I could look at myself and see what other people see, or get my feelings out in the photography and try to convey how I felt, which I won't lie was sometimes very hard. I would take like 150 photos and only like one.
Sure. That's it sounds like there's a couple things that I'm hearing that are beneficial. There's one part which is connection with other veterans, right?
Yeah,
And that's just being in the same room as other veterans. That alone has power and therapeutic benefits. But then there's an added layer of depth with introducing a camera into this group, because we've all got stuff that we don't want to talk about, even in therapy.
right.
I've gone to therapy a long time in my life, and I've lied straight to many therapists' face for
Same.
like, and why do we do it? I think it's just a human thing. And I know therapists, I know I could see on his face, he knows that I'm lying to him, but I
Yeah.
continue to go there. Right. So I don't know why we do it, but getting together with other vets and doing the work with camera, or learning how to spin pottery or
Mm,
painting or learning guitar or whatever, if you do it in a group setting, there's just a double down of healing, right? One part being in the same room, second part working on a creative activity together. And that's huge, because when we're in the service, we're all given training, and we're all given like a little mission. And the training could be as simple as, here's what your aperture and shutter speed should be. And then the mission is to go out into this grapevine field and photograph grapevines in the wintertime, right? But that's a mission. And then you get vets who are like, yeah, let's set the cameras up like this, and let's go in here, look at the light
yeah,
coming over that way. And it's really cool. So
it was exactly like that too, because like I would get down on different angles.
yeah. So you have a task and a purpose, right?
Yeah,
That's huge. And I think I really encourage, veteran or non-veteran, get out into your community. Every community has art programs or workshops that you could do in almost any medium you can think of. Just give it a shot. Go out there and try it, because you never know what kind of profound healing or connection you're going to find with your community.
yeah, and I totally agree with that. The fact that I did that made me open up so much more to other people. I have met some of the greatest people I've ever met in my life now. And it's because I went through Odyssey, which, like, I mean, it did save my life. So,
Yeah, I mean, any activity that you could do with a group of veterans, I think is worth doing. Even if you're a non-vet, find a group
yeah,
retreat, try to weasel your way in and be like, what are
yeah,
these weirdos all about? You know what? I wanted to ask you, because I have a lot of tattoos. You have a lot of tattoos, and I haven't talked about tattoos yet on this show. And I love the medium of tattoo art, right?
I do
It's
too.
I love looking at it, and I like getting tattooed. And that's weird, because it doesn't feel good. right? If anybody out there is like, it doesn't hurt, they're lying to you. It hurts. It's just terrible. What are your thoughts on tattoo art, and what do you love about tattoos?
So, one thing I will say is I'm a weird person. Sometimes I fall asleep, even if it's in a painful spot. It's like therapy in a not harmful way. I don't know how to explain it.
I get it.
Okay.
Believe me.
I love seeing all the different art that people put on their bodies. Some of the stuff that some of these people can do is just phenomenal, and the person who had the idea in the first place, like, it's a phenomenal idea. I All of my tattoos have like a story. So it's like my journal is on my body. So if someone asks me like what is the meaning behind that one, there's something sentimental about everything except for like one. It was just because I was in college and stupid.
Well, we all have to have one of those.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a terrible back tribal. I'm one of those guys. It's Yeah, I'll admit it freely. It's so bad. But I keep it there as a reminder of like, here's what bad decisions look like. You have to walk around with them forever.
I have the stereotypical, like, I just got out of boot camp, like Chinese, Japanese kanji on my leg that's supposed to mean one thing, but then when you translate it, it doesn't even mean close to what I thought.
Yeah, you can't cover that one up.
Oh, and I can't because it's super dark.
Right. There you go. What you got, and that's the ones you showed your kids and be like, are you sure you want a tattoo? Like, I've
Yeah,
had
like,
this a
you
long
better check.
time.
You better check.
Yeah. Everything's a good idea until you grow up.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. You have a quote on your IG profile, and I love it. I want to read it real quick.
Okay.
I can hear my bones straining under the weight of all the lives I'm not living. There's a lot to that, and it's very poetic.
Yeah.
Are you able to unpack that for us?
Yeah. So a lot of my life I have minimized myself or tried to make myself invisible. And it really took like being in the military and meeting people to realize that I was allowed to take up space. And even more so after I got out. It's always been hard for me to like be outspoken or tell people what I think because when I was younger, that wasn't something that I was allowed to do. And I feel like that quote has a lot to do with the fact that I could be in so many different positions right now as far as like where I am in life, but I am happy with where I am in life. But I still feel like, I'm not where I should be.
That's not at all what I thought. So I'm glad I asked, because I think it's far more interesting in the context that you have it, is that especially that you're happy with your life, but it's
Yes.
more of a constant reminder to tell you that you are valid. Your experiences are valid. You have
Yeah.
value in this world, and you have a right to exist and occupy space. And you do. Those things are all true. And thank you for sharing that. That's
Yeah.
awesome. And that's why we're here on the show too, is like there's a lot of podcasters that will only like approach celebrities, right? Or they want to
Right.
get, X, Y, and Z on their show to just elevate the show. And I think there's so much more interesting people out there. They're like regular folks like you and I, folks in the Odyssey Project, people that aren't trying to gain anything
Yeah.
from anything. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
that's amazing, because we are all valid, right? Our every experience has value, and for whatever reason, a lot of us grow up. When you started this little wanted to answer this question, you said you always wanted to feel invisible, and I resonate with that because I am a total hermit. I don't like to be out there in the public, which is does it's your I'm running a podcast, so you wouldn't guess that, but it's the truth. And these questions and these conversations are so important to me that it's worth me putting myself out there for this. But
Yeah.
I always say that I'm trying to be invisible. Like I try to take up as minimal space as possible. When people are sleeping in the house, I'm tiptoeing cabinets quiet. Like I don't want to draw any attention. I do 65 miles an hour in a 65, right? I don't want to create any issue where I'm getting pulled over. I'm trying to
Yeah.
be invisible. So I 100% identify with that. But why do we do that? We don't have to be invisible. We're here, right?
Yeah. And that's something that I've taught my son too. Like, you're allowed to be here, you're allowed to take up space, you're allowed to have feelings. So not only did that help me, it also helped me with my son.
The act of seeking creative outlets, you're saying.
Yep. And he loves it. He Googles me.
Nice. We're gonna have to share some of your images too.
Yes.
And speaking of some of your images, do you have you talked about, I think before we started this, a couple pictures that some of our Odyssey members had done,
Yeah.
Craft and Nate Maybe.
Yep.
What about those images? Can you take us through, like, say Nate's? It's a double exposure. What resonated with you?
It made me feel, like part of you is always there, even when you're here. And I do fully believe that we do leave part of ourselves certain places that we were deployed. And then you come back and you're not fully whole, if that makes sense. That's what that image says to me. And then with Maya's picture, that's about, for me, that it's fun grief for all of the people that we've lost, but also it's a good way to pay homage to them, like I know why she took the photo and everything because, like we've talked, her and I have talked about it, and she did explain the photo. And I do take everyone's photos at face value, but then I also look deeper into it to kind of see where my mind goes with it, kind of
Mhm.
like what I hope other people do with mine. But those ones really struck me. I see his image a lot, Nate's, and it always takes me back to like the first weekend we were all together. You know, we're all shy and don't really want to talk to anybody. And then,
I remember that. Yeah.
yeah, and then one of the other participants, Julian, brought out some photos that he did, and we all started crying together, pretty much. And it was such a significant moment for me that all of these people are feeling the same thing. I have chills. It just makes me feel things that I haven't felt in a very long time.
Definitely. As you're talking, I'm starting to, like, have these thoughts where it's so strange. Like when I hear a veteran takes their life, or somebody I served with dies, or active duty soldier even gets killed. It hits me different than other people, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And there's got to be something to that. Like if it's so important for us as veterans to get together with other veterans while we're still alive, and that's meaningful, even strangers, right, as veterans, and there's meaning in that, then of course when a veteran dies, some part of you, whether you knew them or not, feels that, right? Because it's part of your tribe, somebody in your clan, a person whose
every
experiences you can't share now.
yeah, every time someone posts about something like that, I immediately hurt, even if I don't know them at all. It's an immediate, like punch in the gut type thing.
Right. Right, because it's part of our tribe, and that's a big, like, look into why it's important for us to stay connected.
Yes.
So we get out of the service, and then we're less than 2% of the population. So now we're so diffuse, we can't even see each other half the time.
No, you'd have to travel across the country to see most, like half the people you served with.
Yeah. And that's a good segue right now. I served with Cody Gulkey
Who is my cousin?
in HS8, the eight ballers in 2003 to 2006 or something. He served probably different dates. He was an aircraft mechanic. I was an avionics technician, but we rode Harleys together. Definitely drank our share of beers.
Yeah,
Great guy. And I found out through the Odyssey Project when we started that you were related to him. And then this
yeah.
whole reconnection, I had to reach out to him and talk to him and be like, dude, this is crazy, small world.
I did the same thing. I was like, yeah, you have to hear the story.
Yeah, pretty wild.
Y-
Do
Yeah,
you stay in touch with Cody at all?
yeah, yeah. They're up in Alaska now.
Yeah. Yeah, he was the only person I ever met from Alaska.
Yeah, I joined in Alaska, but then moved. So technically,
You joined out of Alaska.
yeah, I lived in the same town Cody did.
Okay. Well, I mean, that makes sense. Yeah. So is that where you were born?
No, I was
No.
born in Michigan.
Michigan, Alaska, Buffalo.
There's more.
There's more, but snow seems to be a common denominator.
Yeah, and I don't like snow.
Yeah. I love the snow, but okay. Do you have any favorite memories? Like what was about like you brought up the retreat that first weekend where everybody kind of got together. What was significant about that beyond, because it initially veterans get at this table and we don't know each other. We're all a little guarded, right?
Yep.
About whose service is, what who served where and what and who saw what and did what.
I'm
What
pretty sure that I was the first person at my table to crack a dark joke. And then Maya was at the table with me. So she laughed, and her and I became partners.
right on.
So, like, that whole weekend, you're right. When I first got there, I was super nervous. I didn't want to talk. And then somebody said something, and my mouth just told a joke, and the table laughed. And then we all started to get along, and it was great. And I felt like I could be myself for the first time in a while.
Well, was there any like photo assignments that you guys had specifically where you started going, "Hey, I actually like this."
The grapevine
The
thing.
grapevines.
Yeah. So I liked finding the obscure things. Most people are taking pictures of like the grapes,
Right.
but I'm taking pictures of like dead trees and leaves and stuff and hawks that are like flying around.
What time of year was it for that retreat?
I want to say it was like October because there was snow. So maybe February. I can't remember. It was like the second one.
I was in the first cohort and ours was in January.
So it was February. Yep.
February. Okay. And I kind of did the same thing. Like I took some pictures of the grapevines and I was like, but then I found like corn cobs that were being
Yep.
eaten by the deer. And they
Yep.
were all like a shredded corn cob with like a couple kernels on it. And that was what, look at this, caught
Yep.
my eye doing stuff like that.
Yeah. People find it really funny. I'll like go for hikes and I do this thing where I'll find a bug that's like passed or something, and I'll like put flowers with it and like take a picture, and they're like, "You're so weird."
That's
I'm like,
fun.
"It's okay."
It's good to honor things. You didn't know that
Yeah.
bug, but it lived. It exists. It had a right and it was valid and allowed to have a funeral ceremony for it. So good for you.
Exactly.
Did I also read that you served as a autopsy technician?
Yeah. So
How do you get into
I
that?
Hilbert. So it started out as an internship, and I started in 2011, and I did like 2 years. Graduated. Um, they didn't have a spot here in Buffalo. And then I became like a consultant when I lived out west. And now I'm actually doing stuff for my master's so that I can do my own private autopsy stuff.
Cool. That's fascinating. When
Yeah.
I was in high school, I was in like advanced or like biosciences or something, and we got to do a cadaver, like
Yeah.
dissect, be part of like a mini autopsy. It was awesome.
I will say it's the least stressful job that I've ever had.
Yeah, pretty quiet, I imagine.
Unless it's like us cracking jokes, because they crack some military level dark jokes.
I'm sure you have to it's an absurd job, right? Like
Yeah.
it's a necessary field, but
Yeah.
it is absurd on
Well,
its face.
like my grandma introduced me to everyone out west at her church, and she's like, "Oh yeah, so she plays with dead bodies." And I'm like, "Can you explain how
Yeah.
so that they don't think that I'm like out of
She's a
here just
grave
like,
robber.
yeah." I'm just like, "Grandma."
That's
But
funny.
it's my son loves it. Like I've gotten a few phone calls from school. They're like, "We have to ask you, what do you do for work?" And
Yeah.
I'm like, "Uh-oh. Which one did my kid tell you about?"
Yeah. How did he explain this?
Yeah. And they're like, "That you you work with dead people? And I'm like, yeah, that's right.
I mean, it's a huge industry. People are dying every day. There's coroners, there's
They're
autopsy
dying
techs,
to get in.
there's funeral homes, there's crematory services. It's,
Yeah.
it's a massive industry that people just we don't like to think about because
And
we don't
that's
like to
why
think.
most people are like, I could never do that, but somebody's got to. And I'm like, I find it super interesting and it gets me, it enables me to help the family have answers,
Yeah,
or, whoever is looking at why this person died. It helps me to give closure or answers to other people. And I,
absolutely. And that's huge.
yeah, and I guess that's maybe because there are some things I never had closure on. And I hate the thought of people, wondering about that stuff.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah, it was
that's awesome.
definitely,
That's
yeah,
awesome. Good for you for taking all these roads to service,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Eh,
yeah. I'm still really bad with compliments.
No, that's okay. Well, I'll stop complimenting you here. We're going to turn this into a dark podcast.
I could do that easily.
Ravens in the sky. It's
Hey,
okay. All right, been in dad mode all morning, so I have all these corny dad jokes.
that's fine.
Uh, so, all right, back on task here. This is my bad. Back on task. Let's end up on like one more thing is what would you say to a veteran who's struggling right now who may think they're kind of alone or they're not sure they want to meet up with another group of vets? How how could you encourage that person to give it a shot?
I would explain to them exactly how it made me feel that you're not alone. There are people out there that understand you and who will be there for you. And they will become like, really good friends. That these people that you might find as strangers at first will turn into lifelong friends or, even, best friends, whatever. All of us thinks we're alone, but we're really not. There are so many good organizations as far as arts and like anything creative. I'm on the phone. No, I'm on the phone. Sorry.
That's okay.
I feel like if more veterans got together and did even guitar playing or sitting around a campfire and just, talking to each other, I feel like we would be able to at least quell some of the deaths that are happening due to not feeling like you belong, not feeling like anyone understands you. So I would explain to them that as much as it's uncomfortable, it might be the best thing that you do in your life.
So take that step, right?
Yep, take it. Because you may be uncomfortable at first, but the steps after that will get more comfortable as you go.
Awesome. And anything else you're working on right now? Like what kind of stuff are you photographing?
I recently did my own photo shoot. It was
Self
kind of a,
portraits?
yep. I lost a lot of weight and I wasn't seeing myself like everybody else was. So I wanted the camera to be the outside viewer for my photos. And it really made me realize how beautiful of a person I am inside and out, and also how weird I am, really.
Embrace the weird.
Yeah, I definitely do that.
Well, good. You have to because
Yeah.
that weirdness is valid.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
I
valid
mean,
and it exists and it
I
deserves
tell
to be seen.
everybody, I tell everybody, I'm weird, but you'll get used to it.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much for coming by the podcast. I really appreciate you sharing some time and stories with us and, encouraging our community to get out there and get some more healing done.
We should all go to Hatchet and Hops, throw axes.
Hatch and Hops is a Buffalo brewery where you get to throw axes at walls. It's very, what could go
Therapeutic.
wrong? What could go wrong? Awesome. Thanks a lot. This has been Birds in the Sky. I'm your host, Matthew Crane. Erica Duncan, thanks for coming by the show.
Thank you. Bye.